I'm really one of the lucky ones. I am one of the lucky ones because myself and those 43 other individuals, we were lucky enough to survive. But over the last 62 years of the tyrannical communist regime in Cuba, we have seen that over 960,000 souls have lost their lives, really trying to do what me, my mother, and those 43 others were so lucky to do. My whole family, other than my mom, my dad, and aunt and uncle, are still left in Cuba. And they are suffering, through the things that we are seeing and that have been going on for the past several decades. So with that in mind, I wanted to take a moment to thank the panelists on here. Thank them so much for being on here with us tonight, for their time, and for sharing with us their thoughts on this issue. We're gonna have a panelist live from Havana, Abraham, and he's risking it all really to be with us tonight as well. So without further ado, I also want to give a disclaimer que vamos a estar hablando español. Mi nombre es Alian Collazo. Yo soy el director de la Marcha por la Libertad de Cuba y director de enlaces para el Instituto Libre. Vamos a tener partes de esta conversación que va a ser en español también y vamos a tener partes que van a ser en inglés. Entonces, ahora vamos a darle la bienvenida a nuestro panel y que por favor se puedan introducir cada uno diciéndonos por qué es que esto es algo importante para ustedes y qué es lo que los ata a este tema de Cuba. Y podemos empezar con América.
Hola, ¿quieres que empiece en español? Preguntando.
Yeah, you can start in Spanish, en español.
Ok, pues empezando en español, pues la comunidad cubana a mí me ha acogido desde que soy así. Es la familia que conozco, es la comunidad que conozco. Yo creciendo, o sea, me crié en Miami y entonces para mí la comunidad cubana es mi familia, es mi gente, es todo para mí. Y yo creo que aunque no tuviera ninguna conexión a Cuba, creo que la situación que está pasando en Cuba es muy fácil identificarte como humano. Y entonces siento así una conexión así fuerte. Y por eso soy tan apasionada con lo que estoy haciendo. And like really quickly in English, the Cuban community has taken me in ever since I moved to Miami when I was really young. And so it's what I know, it's what I love, it's my people, it's my community. And beyond that, it's really just a humanitarian issue that is, I really feel that once you really understand it, it's really easy to get behind because it's just so human. It's so human, it's so organic, it's so really just asking for the basic necessity of what it is to be human in the world. And so it's what I'm most passionate about, and I'm really thankful for being here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, who wants to take it up next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Hi. So I'm Vanessa Garcia. I'm a writer. I'm an ABC, as we say, American-born Cuban. Born in Miami Beach specifically, but my parents are Cuban, my grandparents are Cuban. I come from a super long line of freedom fighters, political prisoners for a very, very long time. The thing that binds me to this moment in time is that as a writer, I believe in shedding truth. And this is a moment in time in which the things that we have known as a Cuban community, as a Cuban American community, as a Cuban diaspora, because we are all Cuban, are now, these things that have been in our sightline for such a long time are now coming to light to the international community. And it is such an important moment because it feels as if a veil has been lifted and there's nothing else the world can do but look at the truth and see what it is we're going to do to act upon that truth for the people that are inside Cuba that are actually putting their flesh and their blood on the line, that are our brothers and sisters. And so that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Who would like to go next?
What's up, guys? My name is Jason Canela. I am American, but my parents are from Cuba. My grandparents are from Cuba. I have a lot of family members that are still in Cuba today. Much like Vanessa, and much like what America said and mentioned, you know, this is something, Cuba is my family. I grew up hearing the stories, you know, of everything that my family went through. And I think, like Vanessa just mentioned now, that veil that has been lifted to where now the world can see the images to the stories that we grew up hearing. It's such a pivotal moment for us to come together and do what we're doing, because the world needs to see the reality of the Cuban people. Básicamente, la razón por la cual me siento tan responsable para, o sea, obligado a hacer todo lo que estoy haciendo, al igual que todos ustedes, es porque soy cubano-americano. Mi familia es cubana, mis padres, mi papá se fue en el Mariel con 26 años, mi mamá con 9 años. Las historias, o sea, las historias que nos contaron nuestros abuelos del sufrimiento, de la opresión, de todo lo que le quitaron. Al fin el mundo está viendo la realidad de los cubanos. O sea, el mundo ya vio por primera vez en 60 y pico de años cómo el régimen decide actuar cuando la gente se expresa de una manera opuesta a lo que ellos están tratando de imponerle. So yeah.
Ok, gracias. ¿Quién le sigue?
Hello, my name is Laz Alonso. Me llamo Laz Alonso, pero me llamo Lázaro. Laz es como me dicen los americanos, pero los cubanos me dicen Lázaro. Yo soy también nacido en los Estados Unidos, hijo de familia cubana. Primer nacido aquí de mi familia, pero mi familia, claro, emigraron en muchas etapas. Desde el 59 hasta ahora han estado viniendo en diferentes etapas. Para mí, básicamente, era extremadamente importante comunicar lo que estaban hablando los que están en Cuba actualmente sufriendo. Yo lo que empecé a ver fue que en las redes sociales lo que se veía mucho era el pueblo cubano llorando y gritando, mucha información en español. Y del lado de acá, los americanos no entendían lo que estaban diciendo. Entonces, ese sentido de empatía y de esa humanidad que uno cree con otra persona cuando lo entiende, eso era lo que no existía en ese momento. Y decidí usar mi plataforma para poder traducir lo que estaba diciendo el pueblo en inglés para lo que lo estaban oyendo del lado de acá, para que entiendan un poco más, porque por los últimos 62 años el americano ha estado oyendo la propaganda que sale del régimen. Y lo que no han oído y lo que están oyendo ahora por primera vez es lo que está hablando el pueblo de Cuba. El que está ahí sufriendo eso. Eso no son ni mis palabras, porque yo no lo he vivido. Yo nada más que sé los cuentos y las historias que me han dicho mi familia, pero lo que sí sé es que el que lo está viviendo y el que lo está sufriendo y el que lo está sudando todos los días, la voz de ellos se tiene que oír y se tiene que respetar. Y eso era lo que para mí, en el momento que yo decidí hablar, era lo que en ese momento, no sé, lo que faltaba. Y decidí dar mi voz y dar mi plataforma a tratar de ayudar que el mensaje se oiga más profundamente aquí en los Estados Unidos. Dios quiera que oigan y que finalmente, gracias a Dios, hay otra voz que se oiga saliendo de Cuba, aparte de la que hemos estado oyendo por los últimos 62 años, que es una mentira. Y finalmente, el mundo lo está sabiendo y lo está viendo con sus propios ojos.
Así mismo es. Qué bien dicho, ¿verdad? Es totalmente la verdad. Bueno, ¿quién más le sigue en el panel? Y pueden, you guys can talk in whatever language you feel best.
They're asking for you to do it in English as well. Que lo hagas en inglés también para la gente que no entiende.
Gracias. Y Grecia, tienes que dar tu Instagram porque todo el mundo estaba pidiendo, who is she? Where's her IG? No te encontraban. Pero,
okay. Te mando un DM o lo pongo aquí. ¿Lo pongo aquí?
Sí. No, yo fastidiándote nada más, pero tienes que dejarle a la gente saber por dónde te pueden seguir porque you were very popular a few weeks ago. And what I basically just said was, for those that speak English, is that I was born in the US. I am the son of Cuban immigrants. My family started immigrating from Cuba from '59 in different stages until now. I have not lived and suffered what Cubans have had to live and suffer and endure for the last 62 years. But I decided to lend my voice and lend my platform to this because at the time when Cubans finally stood up against this oppressive, repressive regime, they were speaking and crying for help in Spanish. And there was a block there that was lost in translation from what they were yelling for and what the propaganda machine was trying to tell us that they were saying. What we were being told that they were saying and what they were saying and asking for were two different things. And for the last 62 years, what we on the other side of the 92-mile strait between Florida and Cuba have been hearing is nothing but lies and propaganda from the machine called the regime, the Castro regime. So I felt that what little I could offer to this, because I am not in the streets with them in Cuba fighting for their freedom, what little I could do was help translate the message from Spanish to English and help those that don't speak Spanish or understand Spanish understand what they're saying. It's not my voice, it's not my words, it's their voice and their words that needed to be heard. And that's how I decided to lend myself to this cause. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, who wants to go next? ¿Quién la sigue?
I guess I'll go.
Grecia. Yeah, I was just about to call your name.
I felt it. Okay, so voy a empezar en español.
Dale.
El motivo y la razón por la cual estoy aquí es porque como yo lo viví, yo soy nacida y criada en Cuba, yo salí de Cuba cuando yo tenía 19 años, es decir que casi los otros días. Yo he vivido la situación en carne propia, yo sé lo que se siente, yo sé lo que es estar ahí y yo también sé la transición desde indoctrinación a libertad de expresión y libertad mental. So, explicando mi experiencia o tratando de explicar mi experiencia para atraer más atención también del pueblo americano. Una de las cosas que mi plataforma en Instagram, que es, again, my Instagram is Madreagua Market 33. So, mi plataforma en Instagram es mayormente inglés, Anglo-speaking people. So, yo hablo en inglés, gracias a Dios lo hablo bastante bien. So, era importante para mí el poder explicarles a ellos qué es lo que está pasando y por qué está pasando. So, bien parecido a lo que estaba diciendo con la situación de la propaganda y el romanticismo del comunismo y el socialismo y no la verdad de lo que se siente vivirlo. Y después mi video que se hizo viral, que fue el video cuando yo le estaba cantando las 40 al Black Lives Matter Organization, y nunca pensé, eso fue yo de mi corazón porque me molestó lo que leí, me molestó lo que vi, y esa fui yo sencillamente poniendo mi voz y mi corazón ahí. Estaba yo era un desastre, me senté ahí, dije lo que dije, grité, me desahogué y después 3-4 horas después miro para mi teléfono y digo, oh my God, ¿qué hice? So, but it needed to be done. So just explaining to you guys, I'm born and raised Cuban. I left Cuba when I was 19. So I thought that it was very important to me, to let you guys know what's really going on with Cuba from the viewpoint of somebody that lived it, that lived the experience and that experienced the transition from indoctrination, from like a very deep subconscious rooted communist and just brainwashed indoctrination to freedom of speech and just reprogram my subconscious from that system to what I am now. So just explaining to people what it is from the experience of living it, you know, so that's why I'm here.
Perfect, thank you, gracias. Y ahora
Yep.
si podemos seguir con Abraham, que nos está con nosotros desde La Habana. Abraham. Abraham, ¿nos escuchas? Yo creo que está en mute.
Yo los escucho perfecto. No sé si ustedes me escucharán a mí.
Te escuchamos perfecto a ti también, hermano.
Bueno, nada, no puedo estar por video justamente porque estoy en Cuba y sabemos los problemas de conexión que hay acá en la isla. Entonces, nada, para mí es un gusto estar por acá, conocer a mucha gente que no conozco, mucha gente que está en el exilio como ustedes, que nos está acompañando en esta lucha en la cual llevamos 6 décadas y en la cual llevamos mucho tiempo sufriendo. Nada, entonces brevemente pasaré a presentarme. Nada, soy un periodista independiente. Desde hace un tiempo hago prensa acá, obviamente desligado del Estado cubano. Me gradué en la Universidad de La Habana, pero una vez que me gradué en 2012, decidí hacer periodismo independiente. En el año 2016 fundé una revista independiente, El Estornudo, la cual dirigí durante 4 años, fui su director. Y bueno, ahora mismo soy columnista de The Washington Post en español y la revista mexicana Gato Pato. Llevo como mucho tiempo narrando lo que acontece acá en Cuba y obviamente tengo muchas sensaciones encontradas con lo que viene sucediendo en las últimas semanas. Por un lado, mucha alegría y mucho regocijo al ver que los cubanos por fin salieron a las calles, los cubanos por fin perdieron el miedo, pero a la vez mucha tristeza al ver la represión y el estado de terror que ha generado la violencia con la cual ha respondido el gobierno. Por demás, ha sido extremadamente difícil hacer mi trabajo, ejercer el periodismo en un país donde la libertad de prensa es una utopía y además en todos estos días informar ha sido casi imposible porque no solo hemos tenido es decir, no solo la represión se ha multiplicado por 3 a lo que normalmente sucede, sino que además el régimen ha cortado el internet, ha imposibilitado que la gente se conecte, se organice y que narre y que cuente lo que está ocurriendo. Ahora mismo lo que está sucediendo en Cuba es sumamente... hay más de 800 personas bajo medidas cautelares o desaparecidas. Hay muchas aún todavía que están desaparecidas y es una cifra incluso que no es una cifra real, porque son cifras que ha tenido que componer la sociedad civil a través de denuncias y testimonios. Por lo tanto, es una cifra que no es la real. Yo estoy en contacto con la mayoría de las organizaciones que están llevando estos, pero las que se han podido confirmar son 800. Y además el régimen ha tomado estas protestas para encarcelar a todas esas voces y rostros de la sociedad civil cubana que digamos que son líderes, como es el caso de Luis Manuel Otero Alcántara, el artista, como es el caso de José Daniel Ferrer y como es el caso de muchos otros. Yo creo que por un lado lo que ha sucedido es un parteaguas porque de alguna manera, como ustedes bien han dicho, la resonancia de lo que ha ocurrido ayuda a deconstruir ese mito romántico que hay sobre la isla de Cuba, que mucha gente en el mundo piensa que es una isla paradisíaca, progresista, de izquierda, cuando es todo lo contrario, cuando es una dictadura. Pero por otro lado, los que estamos acá, seguimos padeciendo ese régimen que ya llega a 62 años de existencia. Entonces, nada, a grosso modo eso es lo que puedo decir. Y que ahora mismo las calles siguen de alguna manera en tensión, siguen militarizadas y que la gente, si bien regresó a sus casas con los refrigeradores vacíos, con los estantes sin medicamentos, con cortes de electricidad. Por lo tanto, la indignación y la molestia persiste y por lo tanto, digamos que las protestas de alguna manera se han acabado, se ha acabado esa llama, pero es una ceniza que queda aún prendida y que no me cabe la menor duda que no sé si esta semana, no sé si en un mes, no sé si en 2 o en 3 o en un año, pero estoy seguro que va a volver a ocurrir.
Muchas gracias, sí, y vamos a ahora seguir con el último panelista que nos falta por introducir, the last panelist that we are waiting for the introduction.
I think that's me.
Yep, that's you, Gio.
Gio, actually, it's just like Laz. It's Giovanni with a Y, con una Y al último. Very, very Cuban of me. Yeah, I'm here in Miami. I was born in Cuba, left as a young child. Me fui de Cuba muy pequeño because my father was a political prisoner. And yeah, I've been living my life here. You know, obviously Miami, we're surrounded with Cuban Americans. So we know the story well, but you know, I spend my days and my life amplifying that message. Everything we've been talking about, underlying what everyone has said, what Jason has said, you know, what Laz has said. You know, it's the diaspora of millions that know. Sabemos what's happening in Cuba. We know what's happening in Cuba. I have my tias are there. I have my abuela still there. And the world needs to know it's not about drinking mojitos and getting in a convertible and it's paradise. And it's like, no, wake up. There's a problem. We need to fix it. And that's what we're doing here today, you know? And I've been fortunate to work with Vanessa for a few years now on different creative outlets. So I'm blessed to be here with all of you.
Awesome, thank you. Gracias por esa introducción. Entonces, acuérdese que hay cosas que podemos hacer. El Instituto Libre tiene una petición que tenemos un enlace para aquellos que quieren firmar la petición y les recordamos a todos también de lo que está haciendo el Cuban Freedom March. So, tengan en mente eso. Keep in mind the petition that we have and for an action by the Libre Institute. And also what the Cuban Freedom March is doing so that you can, you know, find your avenues, you know, to really get involved in this issue so that we can amplify the voices of the Cuban people. So one of the first questions that we received from our audience is, we have tons of messages from people that are both Cuban and non-Cuban who feel helpless. They want to contribute more, but they don't know which ways to do it in an impactful way. So I think that this is the perfect panel to try to, you know, bring some discussions about what is the most impactful way. I know that Laz touched a little bit upon that, right? What he's doing as an individual. Para nuestra audiencia en español tenemos esta pregunta de nuestra audiencia que dice que hay mucha gente que son cubanos, muchos que no son cubanos, que simpatizan con lo que está ocurriendo en Cuba, pero no necesariamente saben de qué forma, de qué manera pueden ayudar para amplificar la voz del pueblo cubano. Entonces, ¿cuál es la sugerencia? Y si podemos empezar con nuestro hermano dentro de Cuba y después seguimos con el resto del panel. No sé si Abraham nos escucha. Abraham, ok. A lo mejor hemos perdido la conexión, pero bueno, no sé quién quiera coger la pregunta. Who wants to pick up that question about what is it, you know, that those people who feel helpless, that they want to do something, what is it that they can do to amplify the voices of the Cuban people? Who wants to take that one up?
I mean,
Go
ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know, for one, there's some organizations out there that I've been working with that really are helping the people there, whether it's helping in the churches, with pamphlet, with materials, education, with internet and cellular services. I think some of these organizations we've, you know, especially I've worked with big organizations that have to vet these not-for-profits to make sure they're really putting the dollars where their mouth is worth. So I think that's one way is to, you know, if we can think of a list of these organizations that people can donate money, that would be great. Listen, the money right now will be different, how they use it today and tomorrow to next week. it's the landscape is changing constantly. What's happening in Cuba right now, but I think to have that list of non-for-profits that are really helping. I mean, we know young people that are helping with recargas, which is just charging cell phone technology so they can stay connected, and we can still see from here, 90 miles away, what's happening in Cuba. I think those are all different ways that we could support.
Okay, who wants to take a stab at that question? Any different ideas? Because I think it's important. Many people have reached out to us and they're like, well, what can I do?
I just want to say real quick, I think that it's never enough to just like amplify Cuban voices. There's a lot of people that have taken it upon themselves to speak on the issue with maybe not a full understanding of it. So I really think that like just voices like on this panel, it's just so important, especially in English, that are transmitting to a broader audience, just moving that message forward in moments like this when maybe like some people are just since things move so quickly, people are just like pushing it aside. Now bring it back and bring it back with Cuban voices, bring it back with people that know, people that have firsthand experience or people that have experience from their family members or whatever it may be. Bring it back with just reliable information on what the situation is like. I think that that's just going to be the most important thing to move the message along.
Perfect. Yeah. It having the right messaging is the key, right? Like really educating folks about moving away from that false narrative is really important. And I know Abraham was able to connect. So Abraham, can you tell us real quick what your thoughts were? Abraham, que nos puede oír? Okay, I think we're still having it.
¿Sí? ¿Me
puede escuchar? Okay.
Sí.
Escuchó nuestra pregunta sobre qué es lo que tú crees que pueden hacer las personas comunes y corrientes que quieren hacer más, que quieren ayudar a que el mundo entero sepa lo que está pasando en Cuba, pero no necesariamente saben cómo hacerlo. ¿Qué tú le sugieres?
Sí, esa es la pregunta del millón, justamente porque es tan cerrado el régimen cubano que prácticamente deshabilita toda, digamos, las ideas que puedan surgir para que tengan incidencia dentro de la isla. Yo creo que por un lado, y habría que ver hasta qué punto no fueron influyentes todas estas protestas que se han dado en los últimos meses en el exilio, no solo en Estados Unidos, sino en Europa, en América del Sur, en montones de lugares. Yo creo que en un punto todo esto también ha contaminado y ha llenado de regocijo y ha ayudado a los cubanos a empoderarse y a embarrarse de esa valentía. Yo creo que obviamente es distinto manifestarse dentro de Cuba, obviamente, que fuera, pero que la gente lo haga fuera de Cuba ayuda a visibilizar esa causa por la cual los cubanos que estamos acá estamos peleando. Yo creo que eso se tiene que mantener, que yo creo que una cosa fundamental tiene que ser que la opinión pública internacional acaba de construir ese mito romántico de lo que es Cuba. Yo creo que es muy importante que ese sector que no mira acá o que mira con otros ojos o que mira con recelo a lo que sucede en Cuba, tiene que acabar de asumir que Cuba es una dictadura, que Cuba es un país que lleva bajo un mismo gobierno 62 años y en los cuales los cubanos no pueden decir ni siquiera esta boca es mía, en los cuales los cubanos día a día no pueden, es una odisea llevar un plato de comida a la mesa, es una odisea tener medicamentos en el estante de casa, es una odisea acceder a las libertades y derechos fundamentales a los cuales los ciudadanos del mundo acceden. Entonces yo creo que es fundamental que siga ocurriendo estas manifestaciones, yo creo que es fundamental que la gente siga moviendo todos sus círculos de influencia desde sus círculos, ya sea desde el arte, ya sea desde la cultura, valga la redundancia, es lo mismo que el arte, en fin, toda aquella persona que tenga un ápice o un círculo de influencia que siga deconstruyendo ese mito que es Cuba. Por otra parte, yo sí creo que en un sentido la sociedad civil cubana ahora mismo está contra las cuerdas, está contra las cuerdas porque llevábamos un tiempo, digamos un par de años en los que habíamos empezado a empoderarnos desde la llegada paulatina de Internet a Cuba, pero que evidentemente eso como le movió el piso al régimen al punto de que llegó este 11 de julio estas protestas y el régimen ha decidido desterrar por completo toda esta ebullición social que ha ocurrido acá en Cuba. Entonces, de alguna manera, ahora mismo nosotros nos hemos quedado desarmados. La mayoría de esos rostros, la mayoría de los activistas o no pueden salir de casa o están en prisiones o vivimos bajo acoso y persecución. Entonces, yo creo que desde afuera lo que se puede hacer es apoyar, darle la mano en la medida que sea posible, ya sea desde una recarga hasta un mensaje, hasta lo que sea, hasta visibilizar estos casos particulares. Hay mucha gente que está haciendo cosas dentro de Cuba por la liberación de Cuba, pero que no tienen visibilidad, y esas son la gente que pagan más caro el precio de expresarse y de exigir los derechos en Cuba. Entonces yo creo que ahora mismo yo no sabría decirte qué estrategia o qué hacer, pero yo creo que lo que podrían hacer es seguir acompañando esta lucha de león contra mono y el mono con las manos amarradas que estamos haciendo los cubanos de adentro de Cuba.
Muy bien. Bueno, entonces para...
agregar algo, si pudiera un segundito.
Sí, díganos.
Voy a empezar en inglés primero. I think that it's very important that we continue to, I'm reading the chats as we're going along, and a lot of people are asking about how can they organize, where can they find out about protests and marches in their cities, in their states. I think that it is important that someone even suggested maybe there's a organizer toolkit that can be online, that if somebody wants to organize a march in their city or state. Let me tell you about how important marching is and how important these protests have been from July 11th to today in 1 month. When it first happened, the current administration announced further sanctions. And if there wouldn't have been any more pressing and any more marching and any more noise, that's probably where it would have ended. As of recent, if I'm mistaken, somebody please correct me. I might be wrong, but as of recent, I found out that now they're talking about providing internet to Cuba.
Yeah.
We went from a letter of condemnation and sanctions to now action, to providing internet to the people of Cuba. We're still in the very beginning stages. It's only been 1 month. We have to keep our congressmen, our senators, our government of elected officials, we have to keep noise in their faces. This isn't enough. This is great, but it's not enough. And I think that the more that we continue to push them, it doesn't matter what state they're in, it doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican, we live in that state, we pay taxes, and we have a voice. And they have an obligation to us in that state, regardless of what party they may be in, regardless of what party you may be, it doesn't matter. They owe you representation. So it's very important that we don't give up, that we don't stop marching, that we don't stop making this noise in whatever country you're in also. It's not just in the United States. If you're in Italy, make noise in Italy. If you're in France, make noise in France, whatever country you're in. Because if they're doing business with Cuba, and if they're doing trade with Cuba, and if they're doing tourism with Cuba, they need to know that they're doing business with a government that's committing genocide. And so this is the beginning of this movement. It's by no means, we're just getting started on what every country can do to acknowledge that there is this very big problem. and they can't just turn their face and turn their eyes and say, okay, we don't like what's going on, and that's it. That's not enough.
Absolutely.
I think to follow up on what Laz is saying, people have to also inform themselves. And a lot of the things that we're seeing, even in the media right now, a lot of the people being interviewed are members of the Cuban government right now. We have to listen to the Cuban people, and we have to have an understanding that what is happening in Cuba is that there's a criminalization of non-violent protest. And in reverse, the Cuban government has come out and said, yet anyone who is a revolutionary can go out and kill and create violence against the Cuban people, essentially democide. This is something that is against every human rights action in the international community, and we have to collect the international community to point to that and say, this is no longer something that can be negotiated with. This is a people that is creating democide, essentially killing its own people because they need to stay in power. If they were not afraid of the voice of the Cuban people, they would not be imprisoning them. And this is essentially of utmost importance. Y estoy hablando inglés por lo que dijo Laz al principio. Nosotros somos los puentes entre lo que está pasando en Cuba y lo que está pasando y la comunicación en los Estados Unidos. And so therefore I'm speaking English because I do feel like sometimes we speak in a silo of the same community. And it is of utmost importance to say, okay, how do I translate what's happening in Cuba with the people that are in Cuba that we're receiving messages from when they can, for at risk of their own lives most of the time, and translate those to the Cuban people. There are as of 2020, 8,400 people that were imprisoned because of pre-criminal activity. To give an idea of what that means, it means that the Cuban government thinks that you might say something against the state or might do something against the state. That is considered pre-criminal. So who are the people that these are people that are suffering now in prisons for years for that? Who are the people that we need to be listening to? The Cuban people who have been living, organizations like Cuba, Rosa Maria Paya, people who have lived this from the inside out. The people on this panel, the people Enoa, you know, people who are inside of Cuba as well. And so that is very much a part of it.
Yeah.
Just real quick, I want to say that for those of you that are having trouble finding protests, I know that there is a database that was there was a website that was created that's kind of like a database for protests going on within the whole Cuba issue. I don't remember exactly what the website is. I know the Instagram Nima in Cuba has posted about it, but there is a website circulating where you can, even if you're organizing a protest, you can submit it there and it will show up and you can look at what protests are going on just internationally. So that's something to look into if you wanna show up to a protest.
Yeah, it's SOS Cuba. They're putting in the comments with the link, but they're organizing all the marches.
Yeah.
And here's another thing, you know, just to kind of piggyback on what everyone is saying, because I find myself at times trying to educate people on the matter, and you know, because it is important for us to continue to, you know, speak about what's happening and get people to go out to the street and make noise. And, you know, like Laz said, these congressmen and these elected officials, they have an obligation to listen to us. And so if we just, you know, stop here and we let it die down, then there's no need for them to continue to feel like they have to do something. And what we need is action. I think it's important to recognize the fact that, you know, like they mentioned a month ago, it was sanctions. Today, they're talking about bringing internet to Cuba. One thing that I would advise y'all to do is not get frustrated with people who at this given moment in time maybe aren't seeing exactly what's happening. I think the more patient we are, as hard as it is, and the more we really show them the reality of Cuba, as opposed to what the propaganda coming out of there from the communist regime tells us, people will slowly start to realize the importance of this and why we need to keep it going, you know? This isn't something that started July 11th. Esto no empezó el 11 de julio. Llevamos 6 décadas en contra del régimen, pero por primera vez el mundo está viendo, gracias a las imágenes que pudieron filtrarse and, you know, get to us, and we just cannot allow for this to just stop here. We need to keep our foot on the gas. We got to keep the momentum going, and we got to do our best to educate everybody on the matter that this isn't political. It's a humanitarian crisis. It's about freedom. La gente están pidiendo libertad, and that is it. So,
yep.
And oh, sorry.
Yep. Go ahead.
Just to piggyback off that real quick. We also, like, as Cuban people, like, this is sitting really heavily on us. I think that it's important to note that we don't have the obligation to educate anybody. You know, it's gotten to the point where the information is out there. We've put it out there. We've put it out there to an international community. And there are people that are very just reluctant to understanding the issue. And just do not waste your energy on those people. It's really, this is a heavy fight on all of us. You know, we all have essentially a intergenerational trauma almost with what has been going on in Cuba. And so it's really, really important to just preserve that energy towards the fight, towards the good, and not towards people that are decided on not understanding you and not understanding us and our struggle. So just
yep, absolutely. And I want to introduce another question, and I want to start with you, Grecia, because
I'm sorry. Okay, so can I talk a little bit about the first question, and then the second? I'm going to listen to your question first.
Go for it, because okay, I wanted you to come in.
I wanted to, okay, because I've been going through it with the audience, my Instagram audience on the past couple of days. One of the reasons, what I will ask to especially the American people, the English speaking people, which which it's listening or seeing what I'm posting is, and I'm not trying to sound rude, but just like America was saying, it's like this hurt us because it's our problem. This touched us because it's our problem. And like she said, it is a generational thing. So even if you wasn't born in Cuba, you still have that generational cellular memory that triggers something. So it is important for people, especially the American people, to understand that you are not here to tell me how I should feel in this moment. You are not here to tell me how good the revolution is and how I should be thankful. That's not what I want to hear. I want you to seal this and open this and hear me as somebody that lived there, as somebody that stood in that ground, as somebody that suffered that. You know, it is not your turn to lead. It is, we have way too many leaders and not enough soldiers. So what I've been doing so far in my own little, help, it's the same thing that Abraham was saying. So I was, taking donations and sending recargas a los teléfonos de Cuba. Yo me sentaba todos los días con mi hermano me daba 10, 20 números, yo le mandaba recarga, me cerraron Cash App 2 veces, gracias a Dios ya lo tengo de nuevo, me cerraron PayPal, pero and that was an opportunity, actually, when they restricted my PayPal, I was on the phone with PayPal customer service for 2 hours, and I was able to explain to the guy in the customer service what was going on, and I was, educating him on what's going on. He said, I never knew that. Yeah, I never knew that. And then I know that those calls are recorded. So that's going to stay there. Somebody else is going to listen to that. Right. So that's what we need. We need your empathy. We need your prayers. Again, I keep, as a spiritual woman, I will not stop addressing how we need those spiritual tools. Nobody can stop you from praying for my people right now. You can print a picture of the Cuba and just put Cuban people and a white candle and a glass of water and ask for light and strength for my people, because my people they don't have physical arms, but we can arm them spiritually to have the strength and the courage to keep doing, so that these don't die, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
and I want to actually, because I know that
I just want to jump in really quick. I'm sorry. Yeah. I apologize.
No.
The funny thing about the funny thing about what Grecia said is that I was talking to a relative of mine in Cuba, And I told her the same thing, to light a candle. She said, I can't. We don't have candles.
Yeah.
That's why we gotta do it here.
And that's when I told her, I said, don't worry, I'll light one for you. But that's how
That's
bad
why
it
we
is.
gotta do it here. I had meetings. I had Zoom meetings with espiritistas. It was close to 40 espiritistas from around the world. Okay, I know the elders will look at me crazy because how dare you doing a misa via Zoom? Listen, this is the age of Aquarius. We're gonna do what we need to do for my people right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Can I just-
and we had
yeah,
a misa.
Yeah.
We had a misa
So
via Zoom.
so this is exactly why we're having, you know, this conversation, because everybody has a different way, right? And we need to keep that going, because that is important and that is part of this conversation. And I know that, you know, Grecia, you mentioned it, and I want to open it with Laz, because I know you're about to go off because you have, you know, work, and we again thank you, every single one of you, for giving us so much time. But Laz, there's this, you know, talk that historically the Cuban regime has been, you know, for the people who are oppressed, for minorities inside of Cuba, los negros adentro de Cuba, las minorías, los mestizos, los mulatos adentro de Cuba. What is the truth behind that? You know, that the Cuban regime stands for the oppressed people, because we're seeing a very different thing, and it's not new, actually.
You know, I think that one thing that Fidel Castro did was he very strategically aligned himself with the civil rights movement of the 60s when he came into power, as a means of endearing himself with the oppressed people here in the US, the African-American people who were fighting for their rights to be recognized as fully actualized human beings. What he did was brilliant, because he convinced the community, the African-American community here, that he was a brother, that he was fighting for the same thing in Cuba. What he did not communicate is that civil rights did not exist in Cuba, that civil rights for Black people did not exist in Cuba, that the minute that he took power, all of the Black organizations, whether they were social organizations or whether they were religious organizations, were now illegal to come together and congregate together as a people. And even to talk about each other's Blackness was illegal, because now there's no more racism. There's no more racism now. There's only the revolution. There's no more religion. There's no more God. There's no more santos. There's only the revolution. You know, something as fundamentally important to African culture and Black culture, which is spirituality, was now not allowed for a time to be practiced. And that part is what was never communicated here. And so there is a re-education that's happening right now. The mask is being removed. The curtain is being pushed aside. And now a lot of my friends are coming to me and saying, I had no idea. I didn't know. All of these, you know, people that we learned about, Black Panthers, who talked about Cuba as this amazing place where racial equality was possible, that it was a lie. And, you know, there are articles. There's actually a really good New York Times article that was written, I believe, in 1962 or 7, somewhere around that line, of some Black Panthers that ended up escaping and going to Cuba, because Cuba was offering refuge to Black Panthers who were escaping, you know, persecution here in the States. But when they got there, they had to cut their afros. They were not allowed to wear their afros, because an afro was a sign of revolution, and there's only one revolution in Cuba, and that's not it. They weren't allowed to speak to other Black Cubans about their Blackness, because that was anti-revolutionary. You know, and so the reality of living under that oppression was totally different than what they read about in books and what they heard in speeches. It was a lie. And unfortunately, for 62 years, this lie has been able to maintain itself because the Cubans on this side couldn't speak out of fear of what they're gonna do to my aunt, to my uncle, to my sister, to my brother, to my cousin on that side. And finally, when the Cubans on that side said, we don't care anymore, we want our freedom, now the Cubans on this side have been able to rise up and support them. And so it's a big lie. That has
I think there's actually, based on everything that you're saying, just to back it up, and I think I read this on a post that Vanessa, who's with us here, wrote not too long ago. Someone asked years ago Castro about what rights the people had, specifically minorities, and his very simple reply was, with the revolution, every right. If they're against the revolution, none. So I think, just the fact that he openly said that speaks volumes about what our people have had to endure. But yeah, man, it's definitely a big lie.
I mean, that's still it's in the Constitution. It is in there. It says, if you are not with the regime, you cannot exist within this country. And so if there are no human rights, there are no Black rights, no LGBTQ rights, there are no other rights because there are no human rights. And so you can't have a government that to the world says, oh, here's Mariela Castro saying that there's LGBTQ everything, and then saying, oh, but wait, you can't march with LGBTQ rights in May because we're going to close that thing down because guess what? We've been putting people in what some people consider concentration camps for being gay, right? So it's an absolute lie. And what Laz is saying is absolutely true, because not only were we afraid for our people, in the island when you speak here, but also people here were not always receptive to hearing this because Cuban Americans were considered crazy, or Cuban Americans were considered these Cassandras who couldn't speak the things that they really, really knew. And we have known all these things, right? So again, I think the thing is that in the Cuban government, it is codified. Patria o muerte, which is why Patria y vida, which is the song that has come out right now, is so important, because it is motherland and life. Because it's not even the death or life part that's important, it's the and or. In the revolution, it's either you do this or that, or you die. And guess what? We're saying no, and we want life, and this, and Black rights, and LGBTQ, and human rights, all of that. We want a life, we want freedom of expression, we want everything. That, and I say we, because for a long time, we have been told that we are not Cuban. But people, meaning we outside of the islands, but people, our parents escaped with my grandmother spent 23 days at sea. My grandfather almost died. My other one, 15 years in prison. And they gave me this life, and I am Cuban right here in my heart, right here. And I am Cuban. And I get to say this over here because there is sometimes not that vela in Cuban. And because someone over there is saying, please tell them the truth. And so I will stand here and I will say the truth because they're asking me to, because they're my people.
Yeah. And I think it's important, Vanessa, what you brought up, about the Constitution, because, it signals people out from the start, and a lot of people here in the free world, we take it for granted that, constitutions are supposed to be to protect the people, and to really, if you read the current Cuban Constitution, it's the absolute opposite. And okay, my dear friend, go for it, because I know you have a lot to say on this topic.
No, I'm very glad. I'm very, very glad that Laz said what he said. Like, if I could hug him, I will hug him right now, because that's
air hug.
That's been my fight. That's been my fight, especially because of my skin color. The majority of my audience is Black Americans, right? So the romantic telenovela idea that they have, and it got even more romanticized with Assata Shakur because, oh my God. And then as a Black woman, they think, wow, okay, we need to understand something and people need to know the truth. Assata Shakur, they don't want her ideals to spread like wildfire in Cuba. That's why she's in 24/7 surveillance inside of Cuba. Okay? Don't think she's living the life there. She's not. Because they know her ideals are so radical that she will create a revolution, especially with the women that look like her in my country. And then you need to understand this. Angela Davis and all these people, when they go to Cuba and they go and receive medical treatment, and not just them, I'm talking about any other tourist that goes to Cuba to receive, especially Canadians, medical treatment and stuff like that, they don't go to the same hospital that the Cuban people have access to. They are not staying in the same places that the people have to sleep on. They don't, you guys need to understand that. And then it gets to me, and I know it's part of miscommunication and miseducation, that you guys are, like idolizing figures like Che Guevara. Che Guevara is a man who said the revolution will do for Blacks what they did for the revolution. Nothing. Che Guevara said that. And if you study, right, and then you're romanticizing somebody that never lived in the struggle. He was a well-off, silver spoon in your mouth child that didn't want to finish medical school and decided to go on a motorbike on a tour. And you think that made him a revolutionary? Do you think that makes him a revolutionary? He left children all over South America and a whole lot of children in Cuba. We can count 12 so far. And you think that makes him a revolutionary? No, that makes him a deadbeat dad. Because that's what you guys would call somebody that does that, right? So how are you romanticizing that? You know, so we need to understand. We need to understand the reality of the Black person in Cuba is not what they make you think here that it was. It's a lie. It's a telenovela. It's a smoke and mirrors. And the thing is, you guys need to listen to people like us. Don't tell me what you think about your Pan-African, pro-whatever, communist ideas. You haven't lived it. The reality is you have not lived it. And I understand the psychological attachment to certain things because you have made to feel like a stranger in your own land. So I get it. Don't think I don't get it, because when I walk into a room and I don't open my mouth, nobody knows what I am. So I get the same treatment you get. So don't think I don't know the struggle. I know the struggle, but you need to understand when it comes to socialism or communism, you haven't lived it. So listen to the people that have lived it. Listen to because there was never any equality in Cuba, never, especially for people that look like you. So don't believe the lies, because it is a lie.
And I think this is the perfect transition because, you know, the passion. I love your passion because that passion.
I was trying to.
Is what characterizes the Cuban people, right? Los cubanos tenemos pasión por este momento, tenemos pasión.
But my passion is what
que
getting me in trouble with my videos that are going viral because they think I'm upset. They think I'm disgusted. They think, no, I'm passionate. I'm not upset.
So
I'm not yelling. I'm Cuban.
Exactly. Can you tell us a little bit about what you said in one of your videos? Because I think it's important to know.
Which one?
Well, I think that the one that I think you mentioned about the prostitution of young Cuban girls in Cuba. Yep. And can you talk about that? And can then we transition the panel into talking about that romanticism that you spoke about, that romanticism of the healthcare system, that romanticism of school? You know, can we talk about that? Because, you know, I remember being a child in kindergarten in Cuba, and I was already in that apparatus mode. When I got to America, I couldn't believe, you know, that I wouldn't get shot in the streets, because that's what I had been told my whole life since I was a child.
What I thought.
My grandmother would call me, "Oh my God, tú estás vivo? Are you alive?" And she was surprised, you know, at the things that I would tell her, because, you know, 60 years of indoctrination, right? So tell us about that part, and then let's transition into the panel about that, because that's important.
Yeah. So a lot of the times, because people, you know, people ask questions like, why did you have to prostitute yourself? Or why did you have to go do what you had to do? Because, mijo, ain't nobody's gonna eat with $18 a month. What you think? You know, there ain't nobody. So it's not like, you know, and then you, as a young girl, you know, I want to go to the discoteca. And if La Charanga Banera is playing in La Casa de la Música, I want to be there too. And the cover to enter that place was $15. So that means I'm only going to have $3 left for the rest of the month. No, I got to do something. And then I want to dress, right? And I want to have shoes and I want to, you know. So a lot of, and I see, especially with the people that's been going hard for, you know, communism and keeping the system and stuff like that, Italians that I see that I've seen a lot of communism just spreading out all of a sudden in Italy, like, oh yes, we are. And the Canadians, oh yeah. You know why? And I'm sorry, but I'm gonna get a little graphic. The reality of the matter is they cannot do it in their country. So they need a place like Cuba where they can go and sleep with a 16, 17-year-old and not go to jail because it's profitable for the government. So that's the reality of prostitution in Cuba. It sustains the government, right? It sustains the government and it allows those people with pedophilic tendencies to go and get away with it because they cannot do it here. And that's the reality. And that's one of the reasons also why the LGBTQ community is being a little liberated in Cuba because of the, you know, the amount of people, you know, identifying as LGBTQ. So now, oh, let me give you a little bit of rights. But to be honest with you, in my opinion, it's nothing but sexual exploitation too. Because we have more gays coming to Cuba. So let me give you guys an opportunity to at least say that you are gay without getting beat up. Because what people don't know and understand, that gay people used to get beat in Cuba. And they used to get, when the AIDS, you know, wave surged, they was put in concentration camps. Okay?
Yep.
Like they were not humans. No food, nothing. Some of them infected themselves with AIDS.
I was just about to say.
It was safer to be in the concentration camp than in the streets because they were getting beat.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I believe it's estimated that around 5,000 people in that time infected themselves purposely with HIV, so that they had an escape from their reality.
It was easier. Listen, I never seen somebody throw hands harder than a gay person in Cuba. They had to fight, okay? Fight. Like, yeah, I might be gay, but I'm gonna beat your ass. Gosh, sorry. Because I've seen brawling. I've seen them brawling. I have a friend. I don't know where he is anymore. We lost contact completely. Gay. It was the 90s. We're talking about the 90s. And he got beaten by police and they got raped in the police station.
Jesus.
He got raped by the same police that beat him. Just for being gay.
And you know, this is why we're calling this panel What is Happening in Cuba? Because it's not just about this moment. You know, we're bringing some historical context to this for those who are watching and for those who will watch later on as we are recording this. But we need you to understand that this is, you know, not just about this moment that the Cuban people are living, but it is about what they have lived to that has gotten them to this moment. You know, this generation after generation of suffering, of tragedy, that has gotten us to this moment. So I wanted to transition a little bit to the discussion about the free healthcare, the free education. You know, whoever wants to start with, you know, take a dab at that. Unfortunately, we have lost our panelists from Havana because obviously the internet connection is horrific, which is why we're pushing. You know, we need that internet. If whoever wants to take that up, I know Laz was about to having to leave. If he wants to take that, or Vanessa or whoever, because we would, you know, it's important for the world to know that the Cuban people have lost everything for this idea of free education and free healthcare and free blah, blah, blah.
Laz, go first and I'll follow.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to be part of this panel. I feel so honored to be among this group of people who not only have lived experience or have experience from their parents, but the passion that I feel on this panel to me and the comments that I'm reading are all very positive. People are really receiving this And I hope that when, you know, this re-airs, if there could be some type of subtitle, because a lot of people are asking for it in Spanish, and when we speak Spanish, they want it in English, and you know, they need it in both.
We will take care of it.
Thank you, Alan, for having me. And you know, I mean, the situation about the education and the hospitals. I mean, again, the healthcare, we're seeing the healthcare right now. You know, I try my best. It's hard because these are human beings that are being projected around, pictures around the entire world. You know, they're not animals, but there's no other way to show the world what this idea of what they think healthcare is not it. They got metal beds. Some don't have beds. They're sitting in rooms in chairs. You know, during a pandemic, it's 50 people in a room with no type of cleanliness. They don't have needles to do injections or draw blood. They don't even have swabs, alcohol swabs to clean the skin before they do any type of work on people. And this is, you know, as one Cuban activist and hip hop artist that I follow now said, is that this is from the Cuban government to the people. This has nothing to do with any other situation. This is what they're doing. This is what they have chosen to do to the people. You know, and you know, according to my mother, free education was always the case in Cuba before Castro. You know, my family's a little older, so they remember before 59, the Cuba before 59, and they had free education before that too. So again, it's propaganda, it's lies that were meant to deceive the world. And you know, all I can say is thank God that finally the truth is coming to light. It's our job on this side to keep pushing the truth out and to not let it die down, to not let this conversation go away, because more can happen. And I truly believe in my heart that this isn't by chance. This did not happen this year by accident. Something big is happening that we may not know about, and something bigger is yet to come. I believe in that, and I believe it's coming very soon. And so we all need to continue to push and not lose faith, because our brothers and our sisters on the island are still dealing with this. It didn't end after July 11th.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
No, I just want to thank you so much. I mean, it's our honor to have this panel put together. This is the honor of my life, as that 8-year-old Cuban boy, you know, who was ever going to think that, you know, we were going to be able to inform the world really about the realities of Cuba, and you guys are doing that right now. So thank you for being with us. And I know Vanessa was going to follow after last.
Thank you so much, folks. Have a good night.
See you, Lav.
All right.
I think one of the epitomes or the most exemplary things about what we can say about the healthcare system or the education system is perhaps the doctors that are trafficked essentially to the rest of the world. I mean, we have had to sit here and watch people say, oh my God, the altruistic doctors that the Cuban government is sending abroad to help everybody. Oh my God, how wonderful the Cuban government is. They are so wonderful, so wonderful. Let's give them the Nobel Peace Prize. Let's give them the Nobel Prize. And all the time we understand, because we actually know some of those doctors, we have a real understanding that they are going against their will. They are going because they are forced. It is essentially human trafficking. I know personally people that have died way too young, you know, back in the days of Angola or even before. I mean, just sending people coming back with whatever kind of disease from any place that you do not want to go, and you are trafficked and having to go to these places. I mean, it is essentially that. And for the first time ever, that is coming to light, and that is something that people are beginning to understand. But the fact that this kind of slavery, which is it is essentially was something that the world was lauding as something that was exceptional and wonderful, is the same thing as what we heard even in our election, you know, like Bernie Sanders talking about the incredible healthcare system and the free education. It's just not the truth. I mean, anyone who has ever had family in Cuba, which is all of us here, knows that you have to send sheets and you have to send aspirin and you have to send everything, because there is nothing over there. And not because of the embargo, because when humanitarian aid is sent, the Cuban government intercepts it, sometimes then sells it to its own people instead of giving it, because humanitarian aid is meant to be given to the people, but they sell it instead. And it doesn't get to them. They take it instead. And so the Cuban government gets fat, the population gets more ignorant and sicker. And you know, another example is one of the prisoners that we've been talking about is this guy in Bauta named Manolo Manguera, right? He, for example, this is an example of the education system, right? So he was known for being he was imprisoned on the 11th for just going out on the street, peacefully protesting, etc. Just like so many people. It's sad that it is so common what we're talking about at this point. But, you know, a long time ago, he's a soccer fanatic. So he put up a flag of Brazil on his roof, and the police knocked on his door. And what is that anti-revolutionary symbol on your roof? If the education system is so wonderful, why don't you know that that is a Brazilian flag? I mean, talk about the enclosure, there is no sense of that knowledge. And so the amount of hypocrisy and ignorance around those two subjects is paramount. And so that's the beginning of that.
I would love
that definitely, like, you're right. Like, you hear those things and you just want to like grab them and like slap them and like wake up. It's business for the Cuban regime. They're making money shipping out doctors. It is not humanitarian. It's business. It's putting money in their pockets. Fact. Simple as that. Next, it's like, it drives me crazy.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, there's a lot of that romanticism that that the doctors are really getting, you know, something out of it. And, you know, they're not. You know, they don't even get paid a quarter of what the Cuban regime gets paid. So I think it's you know, what Gio brought up, it's so important for people to know that they are like, it's like indentured servitude essentially in the modern day world, right? It's kind of, you know, you're doing this work, you have to do it, you're sold this idea about it, but it's not really what it is. And then the other sad reality is we look at the videos, los videos que estamos viendo de los hospitales, que la gente dice, ¿dónde están los doctores? No están en Cuba. ¿Por qué? Porque los están explotando afuera de Cuba.
Y otra cosa que también puedes mencionar es el hecho de que estos doctores, quienes están siendo mandados, obligados a ir a trabajar en otros países, they don't get work visas. They're not allowed to go there. You know, they're there under the program of the regime, where like they don't even have the option to where if they do decide to defect and stay, they're there illegally. You know, so it's this level of control and this level of like making people feel like they're chained up even without having to physically put chains on them, that has just gone on for so long that it's unbelievable. Unbelievable that they've been able to do this for so long, man.
Donaldo in the chat was like, why do so many Cubans on the island then revere Fidel and the revolution, right? And I think brainwashed.
And I think that we've been speaking about that, right? That when it has a lot to do with the education, right? So I know that Grecia was speaking earlier about the education, and that's one of the main things. You know, Grecia, tell us, you know, a little bit about your experience in the education, right? Because
okay, for the person that asked that, I got two words for you: indoctrination and brainwash. And it starts at a very young age. By the time you go to school, which is by the age of 5, 6, if you know anything about the subconscious mind learns through trauma, repetition, and symbols. And we are attacked with all three of them in the Cuban system, educational system. So we are made to repeat communist mantras, what we call mantras, right? Saying, pioneros por el comunismo seremos como el Che, patria o muerte venceremos, things like that. Every single day of your life, more than once a day, it comes, and then you are reminded every day, you need to be grateful to us. The world out there is so bad and terrible. Here, you're safe. We're going to protect you. Because these Americans are going to come and destroy us any minute now. Any minute now, they're coming. So we protect you. You just study. But then the educational system is messed up. A lot of the, with all due respect, a lot of the Cuban, especially this young generation that I know now, they don't know how to spell correctly. You reading their text messages is a headache. They don't read books. Let me tell you something. You cannot take a book out from the libraries in Cuba home. So they are designed, and then you gotta be careful what you read. Not any book is allowed in Cuba. So you have to be careful. It's, the propaganda, the brainwash, the symbols is in the textbooks in school. You have to repeat stuff and it's not what people make you think it is. It is not what they make you think it is. When I came to this country, when I left Cuba, before I came to this country, I realized how backwards I was. I was like, damn, I didn't learn this in school. So it was kind of like a rediscovery of things. And it was like, it was overwhelming. It was very overwhelming because I thought that, the educational system in Cuba was amazing because that's what they made me believe. Like I said, the transition from that indoctrination to starting to think on your own.
And what is, I would love to get America's input on this in terms of what can the message be for young people who don't really understand, that we hear a lot of, free education, free healthcare, free this, free that. And we're hearing it sometimes even here, in the free world, right? How can we decipher that and understand kind of the tragedy that has brought up on the Cuban people, what it has cost them for that notion of free education and free healthcare?
I think it's just, it's just being sympathetic like young people have been with a lot of humanitarian causes lately, especially my generation. They're really quick to really take it upon themselves to spread a message, to listen, to gather resources, to do what they can to help people in need. So it's really that. It's just getting in there just the right way so that people understand this is just like every other issue that we've been campaigning against or issue that we've been campaigning, I guess, to solve. It's the same thing. And understanding that Cuba is not the example that a lot of young people think it is, and that there's nothing wrong with you thinking that, that free education should be a right or that free healthcare should be a right. There's nothing wrong with that, but just don't use Cuba as an example. When the Cuban people are suffering, that you set ideology aside and you look at what it is doing to the people and understand that just do not use that as an example. And it also like goes hand in hand with don't use Cuban revolutionaries as an example because it's not an example. And you have your right to believe any ideology you want. But when the way that you are believing your ideology, it is invalidating the oppression of generations of people, then it is a problem. Then it's a big problem,
Absolutely.
Everybody has their right in the free world to believe what they want, but do not sit here and gaslight the Cuban people and invalidate everything that they've gone through because it does not fit what you thought what was sitting with your ideology,
And we're hitting now the almost hour and a half discussion here, and I know we could be on. We're Cuban, so we could be hablando aquí hasta sin café, hasta mañana por la mañana. So I just wanted to give everyone who's still on the panel an opportunity to say some few words to the people in the world, to the Cuban people, And to all of those who are listening now, as a closing of the panel tonight.
I'll jump in real quick, but I want to say something, because I think when Grecia was talking about indoctrination, and I think Vanessa could speak really well to this, I know she's got all these numbers, people forget or don't know what Peter Pan was, right? And that was parents fearing that they're going to lose their children and their parental rights, and that their children will be indoctrinated into this communism and sent their kids out. Like how many kids, Vanessa? Like, jump in here, because this is, this better than anyone.
It was the largest exodus in the Western Hemisphere ever. So that's that. That's a lot of kids. But I think one of the things is that, we're talking about that it is no longer a majority of people that are saying, we are, if there was ever, that we're pro-Fidel or whatever it is. Right now, and I just heard Tania Bruguera say this from inside of Cuba, say that is the government and the regime is a minority right now. And that is why they are so afraid. And that is why we cannot let go at all of this right now. Because the majority of people want a regime change, want democracy on the island, want a voice. I mean, that is massive and paramount. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why you can't let go. One of the things that I think about all the time is that if under the pressure in the 1990s, Osvaldo Payá, who held the Varela Project, collected under pressure of, as it is still, of death, to put your name down on the line and say, I want freedom. He collected 25,000 signatures to say, I want freedom. I want to present this to my government. And they, of course, shut this thing down. If that was then, what is that now? What is that now? It is everywhere. We're seeing it. We're actually seeing it across the internet, across everywhere, And so I feel like that is one of the massive reasons why we can't let go, because this is the majority of the people. And what we're saying is that they want a voice. They want a regime change. They want a vote. They want freedom of expression. They want these things. They're asking for these things, begging for them, and super clear as day, the call that you hear on all those videos is libertad, 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 over and over and over again.
Something that just, it's not really something that we've talked about, other than the fact that we did mention, all the different types of ways that Cuba is romanticized. And I was actually talking about this with Vanessa a few days ago. And Vanessa, if you want to, I'm even willing to just bring it up and then let you take over, because I think that, you can do a way better job than me in the importance of us speaking up about this. But, I think that right now, the time that our people are living in, what's happening to the people on the island, the people that are fighting with sticks and stones, looking down the barrels of guns, being dragged out of their homes, forced to fight against their family. I'm not sure if many of you or any of you have seen a movie that was just released on Netflix by the name of Vivo. It's an animation. The movie opens up with a scene in Havana that looks like a scene out of High School Musical. You have hundreds of people in lavish dresses, smiling and dancing and playing music and getting money thrown at them, and food and fruits, and this vibrance and this life and this color that may have existed in 1950, but that has not happened in the last 60 plus years, and it won't ever happen. And so for a platform as big as Netflix to allow that fake image of Cuba to come out to its 300 million subscribers, it's such a slap in the face to Cuba and to our people, considering what's happening. The same street that they're dancing on in the movie are the streets that have the blood of a 12-year-old whose brain was blasted because he had a sign that said freedom.
Yeah.
How is it possible that the people behind that movie, people that I respect highly, how is it possible that they are not coming out and speaking about this? I just think that it's our, you know, as important as it is for us to continue to do the things we're doing, make noise, you know, put in plans of action, put pressure on the administration to bring internet to the people of Cuba, you know, strengthen our allies, other countries to come together, denounce that government, you know, vocally express the illegitimacy of that government. You know, there's just so many things that we need to put pressure on the administration for them to actually take action. But it's also our duty as, you know, people in the industry, myself, an actor, Vanessa, a writer, you know, it's our duty to make sure that when things like this happen, they don't go by unnoticed, because they continue to romanticize Cuba and make it look like something that it's not. I mean, for the last month, you've been seeing people being massacred. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if Vanessa, if you want to add anything to that, but it is, to me, it was appalling to see something like that.
It's always hard because, you know, people that made that movie are so much for so many people, right? And so we want to ally with our fellow artists, but at the same time, we have to speak the truth about our country. And what ends up happening is it is like saying, can you stage a love story in the 1940s Germany and not mention the Holocaust? Can you actually stage a love story in South Africa at a certain moment in time and not have apartheid in the background? Like, can you actually do that? Or is that just completely immoral? And I think that is something that we have to begin to question, and that we have to again, where we started, lift the veil of and the romantic version of. And I think you're totally right, Jason.
Yeah.
And just to like piggyback off of that really quick, I'm not too like familiarized with like who is behind all of that. I know Lin-Manuel Miranda is like I'm pretty sure he did the music for Vivo and he plays the main character. I'm not sure who else is in there, but I'm willing to bet not enough Cubans to be to be making a cartoon on Cuba. And it's just the same issue over and over again. It's like, why do non-Cubans feel that they have an authority to speak on Cuba? Like, why do people feel that they have like what, and it's just like that romanticized version of Cuba that people get so attached to, that then they feel that it gives them an authority to do that. And Netflix and any of these platforms, they can set back a date. They can set back a date to release something. It is incredibly, incredibly disrespectful and insensitive for them to put out something like that right now. Incredibly, incredibly. And it's just that, it's lack of us. It's lack of us in those rooms where supposedly our culture is being sold. It's being sold and profited off of, and it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, keeping it with trying to close, because I know everybody in America, thank you again, you're on the other side of the pond. Anyone want to put in a last word before we close tonight's panel?
I want to send a message real quick. Well, a couple messages. I'm going to summarize it real quick. So, one, para el pueblo de Cuba y nuestros hermanos en Cuba, que no están solos. No están solos, aquí estamos haciendo todo lo que podemos para poder ayudarlos y darle el apoyo que ustedes necesitan. For the Black people in this country, because like I said, when I walk into a room, you don't know what I am, so I get the same treatment. I have a very simple message and homework. It's actually homework. Understand one thing. One of the largest, genocide and mass murder of Black people in history was the Angola War. Just study who had their hands behind it. The same person that you guys romanticize, Fidel Castro. And now the Angolan government is apologizing to their own people about the massacre and giving reparations to their own people because of that same war where Fidel had all their hands into. So if you feel that somebody that mass murder so many Black people in Africa, and what's behind it will save you, I will suggest you rethink that. And then the third thing I would say is do not forget your spiritual tools. We all here have some spiritual tools. I don't care what you believe in, Hindu, Buddhist, your Santero, Palero, Abalao, Mason, Rosacrucian, Caballeros de Luz, Awaqua, everybody, Christian, I don't care. You all have spiritual tools, and it's a privilege to have access to those energies. So go ahead and use them for something that's less self-centered. Go ahead and use it for freedom. Use it for justice, and use it for the people of Cuba. Let's be a little less focused about ourselves and use these gifts that has been given to us for the good of the people of Cuba. And with that, I'm done. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else would like to get in a word?
I just want to say one thing, which is what Luis Manuel Alcántara ends his videos to the Cuban people with, which estamos conectados. And I feel that with my people. Estamos conectados. We're all connected. And I say that over and over and over again. Estamos conectados. We're all connected. Let's carry that over here and not let go.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to thank our audience, who has been amazing. They have been engaging. Toda nuestra audiencia que ha estado aquí toda esta hora y media, casi un poquito más de hora y media, escuchándonos y dándonos todo ese feedback, todas esas preguntas. We want to thank you all. I want to thank you guys, the panelists, those who are not here, especially our brave friend in Havana who joined us, Laz, who had to go off. You know, es verdad, we are connected, estamos conectados. And a message from the Cuban Freedom March and the Libre Institute. Like I mentioned earlier, the Libre Institute does have a petition that you can, you know, sign up to and take action in that way. The Cuban Freedom March, we are planning continual action, not just in the city of Miami and in South Florida, but around this country and hopefully around the world, because like we have been discussing all night long, we have to keep going. We have to continue. This is a opportunity for libertad for the Cuban people. So if you're interested in learning more, please follow us, listen to what we're doing and what we're organizing at the Cuban Freedom March, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and also at the Libre Institute and all platforms across social media. To the Cuban people, para mi gente, para nuestra gente en Cuba, que nos están escuchando, que a lo mejor van a ver este video de aquí unos días, que Abraham le va a decir que habló con nosotros, estamos conectados, el mundo está conectado con ustedes, el mundo los está escuchando a ustedes, no a ese régimen tiránico que ha tratado de controlar la historia durante estos 62 años. Están siendo escuchados y ustedes están ganando la victoria ya, porque Cuba, la libertad de Cuba está casi aquí, pero ustedes están ganando porque el mundo los está escuchando. And to the Cuban people listening to this around the world, please know that you're winning, okay? Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, okay? You are a majority, you're calling for libertad, for liberty, for democracy, for basic human rights. And that is a noble cause that the world is listening to, and that we will continue to support, amplify, and keep that alive, because this is your moment. And this moment will not be like any other, because the end of this moment will be freedom and democracy for the Cuban people. And now to the panelists again, thank you so much. What an honor. You guys are awesome.